Huntress here for Hemp Talk with Tokeativity. And this month, the theme is Flower Power. And when it comes to flower and hemp talk, I'm all about hemp. And it is wonderful because this is actually the second year that Emily is back speaking with us at Tokeativity to talk about something that I have a strong passion for, and it's what brought us together. I've said it several times, I am not seeking the people that are looking to grow 1 million acres. I am seeking 1 million Americans to grow a plant or an acre. So that is what brought me to meet Emily through Tokeativity Connections. And today we're going to talk with her about Grow It From Home. Link is in the chat of where you can order your own plants. But we are going to get started. And Emily, I just wanted to thank you for being here and give you a chance to start off by giving us a little bit of background about Grow It From Home, Infinite Tree, where you're at, and just some background on the Grow It From Home for the folks watching this.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, thanks for having me. So first, I feel like, what is it like? I should say like long-time gardener, first-time smoker. I don't know. So basically I come from, my PhD's in science, but while I was doing science, I started a nonprofit with others that created public parks and community gardens in San Francisco and managed them as a volunteer. So I've been really passionate about providing access and food justice and social equality through food justice and open spaces, access to green spaces for a really long time. And I left San Francisco and started a hemp company, Infinite Tree. We're a nationally known craft flower genetics company that provides genetics and nursery services to farmers. So I had to say goodbye to all my gardening friends and my parks and run a business and work with farmers, which has been great. And then last year, for the first time, I had gardeners calling me through our commercial hemp company asking, hey, can I grow this in DC? Can I grow this in California? Can you send me seeds or plants? And I was like, can I send you seeds or plants? Like, can I do that? I'm a commercial business with farmers. So we looked into it and we can. We got all the necessary licensing done and certificates and things squared away. And we're the only provider that I know of live plants and certified seed in the United States. So we founded Grow It From Home because there's a need. And I love being able to work with gardeners again. So I'm back with my people. It's just a different plant than I used to be able to talk about. So I'm really here to kind of help debunk myths anyone has about growing cannabis. We refer to this as hemp because legally it is hemp because it contains CBD. It's classified as hemp. But whether fertilizing, pruning, sun, yield, everything it's cannabis, is cannabis, is cannabis. So just so happens we legally provide a CBD product, which is hemp. But what Beth and I are going to talk about really applies to growing the plant cannabis, whether you're producing it at home for THC or for CBD. So I guess that's the first myth. I've already debunked a myth there for everybody. Yeah. Same plant, everyone. So that's why we started Grow From Home, just because people needed plants for all different reasons.
And I was just going to say, and that's one of the things that was really fun to talk about with people last year. And it is the idea of, wait a minute, you're growing plants on your deck. So let's talk about some of the myths, like you said, and really, and we'll clarify again and again. We are talking about, when it comes to botany, we are talking about cannabis. When we're talking about science, we're talking about plants. When we're talking about the law, we are talking about, for right now, what you're shipping out and is legally available is the hemp plants that are
correct.
Do have CBD. So when they get those 3 plants, there is a lot. People get on Google and they're going to look around and they're going to wonder, Emily, what lights do I have to buy? And do I have to buy a special tent and grow it inside? What about pH soil and all that is out there on the internet to say this is how you grow?
Everyone wants your money, right? They want you to spend all this money with them. What I say it so often, it's just like a tomato. If you want to grow a tomato, indoors with lights and fancy equipment, you can do that. You will produce great tomatoes, but most people wouldn't grow tomato that way. And you can grow it just like a tomato. So like you did last year in really nice, like 5-gallon containers, not very big, on a patio, sunny, just like you would a tomato plant or a basil plant. It really is the same. So when you go on the internet and you start Googling these things, you're going to see a lot of folks, like you said, trying to sell you fancy, like special lights and special fertilizer. And if you wouldn't buy it for your tomatoes, don't buy it for your hemp. That's really
like that. You wouldn't buy it for your tomatoes, don't buy it for your hemp.
You can, but like you don't have to, and you really don't need.
And then the other thing we were talking about is the amount produced. Again, I talk about the million acres, the acre, but when we're talking about a gardener that's looking to, grow some plants, so if they order 3 plants from Grow It From Home, is that going to be enough for the year?
Well, I would say, Beth, I don't know anyone who goes through a pound of hemp flower a year. Do you know anyone who goes through a pound of hemp flower a year? Yeah, I mean, really huge parties, and that's why they need 3 plants. But basically, I dare everybody to try to use everything they grow. I kind of joke with everyone, like, you're going to become like the zucchini lady on to give away zucchini bread and zucchini chips, but instead it's going to be hemp, hemp oil and hemp flour and tinctures you made from the hemp and salad dressing you made with the hemp oil. You're giving all these made with your plants away because you're going to have so much of it. So I like to remind folks, another one of the myths that's kind of wrapped up in there, Beth, is people are like, well, an eighth at a dispensary is so expensive, so these plants must not produce very much. And that's just not true. The plants, small plants, produce a ton of flower. The issue is because of the way the market's regulated and the sort of scarcity and the way supply and demand is working right now in the marketplace, the products are just really expensive. So you can grow, your own flower very inexpensively at home, and you can buy it at a CBD shop or dispensary for, a lot of money a gram. So there's really this big disconnect. So the plants actually produce a ton of flower. They just charge a lot in the stores because they can get a lot of money for it in the stores. I'm sure you've been into like a grocery store, like a pharmacy, and seen CBD, lotion for sale. And it's like, $50 for a little couple ounces of coconut oil infused hemp. Well, that's something you can do at home with an Instapot, a stove pot, a ardent machine. It's really, you can make equivalent, coconut oil lotion with your hemp flower that you're spending $50 for a couple ounces on at the store. So it's really liberating to people to understand, like, they can do it at home. It's very easy, and they're going to get so much flower from just a single small plant.
And that's, I like that on your social media, your website, there's a lot of sharing of what different gardeners are doing at home. Yeah.
I'm always surprised. Yeah. I'm not a green smoothie person myself, but it turns out I like a nice peanut butter banana kind of smoothie. I'm more on that side of things. But, a lot of folks I talk with, they're like, I could never get the fresh leaves. I juice the leaves for my wellness program. Or chefs, or just cooks, but professional chefs and regular home cooks, they like to chop up the leaves and use it as an herb or a microgreen. Or, and they need clean, fresh leaves to do that. And you can't get those anywhere else, basically, unless you call me and ask me to ship you some leaves, which I'd be happy to do. But grow your own plants. So people love to just snip the fresh leaves, put them in salads, chop them up as like oregano on a pizza, juice them in the morning as part of their green smoothie. And these are all things I didn't think of. I've seen so many people that use it like in an Alfredo pasta, like make a cream sauce and then chop up the leaves and add a little CBD oil to the cheesy pasta sauce. And I was like, that's fantastic. I mean, just like you would use thyme and oregano and basil and rosemary, add a little crumble a little flower, chop up a little leaf, and enjoy your plant. So I'm not saying don't smoke the flower.
Right,
I'm just saying there's so much more you can do that I wasn't even aware of until people started asking for plants and telling me their beautiful stories about how they use in their life and how important it is to them. So
and on that, it's just like with tomatoes. So it's growing on your deck. I mean, at least that's what I do, and that's just one example of how you can grow. Mm-hmm. So I use a felt pot. It's just something that I felt comfortable using. But what are the different ways that you can grow a plant, or up to 3 plants, 3-4 plants depending on your state? What are the different ways you can do that?
So first of all, so the fabric or felt pots are great. There's tons of fashionable pots now available. You get them in all sorts of colors and sizes and things with Velcro, without Velcro. I have just a really simple, cheapy one from, I believe, Amazon that we have around nursery. It's just a real simple black fabric pot with handles, so you can move it around. You can give your plant a little tug to see how heavy it is and if it needs to be watered. So folks like the fabric pots because, I'm going to say this, people tend to overwater their plants.
I did.
It's very easy because you want to interact with it. You want to water it. You want to make sure it's happy. You want to interact. So these are nice because they allow the plants to dry out really quickly. Yeah. They're also lightweight. So soil is heavy, the plant gets big. So for people on a patio or a deck, they don't want to put a ton of weight up there and be able to move stuff around. A bunch of people came over, let's move the plant over here. Yep. These are really nice for moving plants around, keeping them drier. And they're inexpensive. They're just a couple of bucks for a really big one. Whereas, so that's a fabric pot. Put over here. And then whereas this terracotta, this nice turquoise planter I have here, it's beautiful, but it's very heavy. It's very expensive. So it's another option, growing in a container. Just make sure it has drainage. So you want to, if you're growing in a container, make sure it has a drain hole. But you can totally grow in terracotta. It's nice. I actually prefer growing in terracotta because I forget to water my plants. So it keeps them, I'm the other kind of gardener. So I like these because it holds more moisture and it allows the plant to go longer in between waterings. But if you really want the lowest maintenance, most carefree way to grow, it's always in the ground.
Okay.
Always in the ground. So yeah.
And, I had a question, and actually I had a couple friends ask me last year, and I, made an assumption based on what I know, but if it's going in the ground in a garden, does that mean even with only a couple plants, there's phytoremediation, there's some soil, obviously plants are good for the soil, but hemp being so much stronger at,
pulling up all that stuff. And I would say, so first of all, that's a great question. And hemp is known ecologically as pulling up a lot of things from the soil. It's used for phytoremediation, like you mentioned. I would say that if you wouldn't grow tomatoes there, I wouldn't grow hemp there. If your backyard used to be a mechanic shop or something, if there's a lot of things that were spilled on the ground, a lot of chemicals, things that you're not sure of at your site, I wouldn't put hemp there. But I would look at that I wouldn't put a vegetable garden there either. So even though it's better at phytoremediation, it does pull up more. I would say use your instinct. If you would plant a vegetable garden there, you could put there's plenty of extension services in most counties. You should do this anyways if you're just growing zucchini even. Take a soil sample. It's usually $25, $30.
Oh, cool.
Extension service, and they'll check the soil. So that's the most peace of mind. I have a twin sister and she's fanatical about that. You accidentally dump anything swishes on the ground and she's like, I'm never planting anything there, rain, don't plant, and I'm like, fine, but she's really sensitive to it. And she just gets her soil tested. When she lives somewhere, she makes sure the soil is tested in the backyard. So that's the safest way, but I wouldn't be more concerned about it than a tomato plant necessarily, but it is really good at phytoremediation. So just get your soil tested. And if you put a vegetable garden there, put your hemp there. Wouldn't worry about it.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And on that related, regular potting soil, everybody, you don't need to buy dank 420 back guano special hemp, cannabis fertilizer. Use the same type of soil that you would in compost, everything that you would normally amend your vegetable garden with. Same for hemp.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and last year I purposely did like a very basic organic soil. I mean, I really wanted to. I probably did give more love to my tomatoes than I did the hemp plants, but I wanted to see what just following the basics. If you were a brand new, gardener in hemp like I am, and they did amazing. And yeah, I still have some left, and that's with me sharing with somebody up the street. I believe there was a book we talked about.
Oh yeah. So if you've got questions about growing your own cannabis at home and how normal it is, how you can plant it right next to your salvias and your lavender and your lettuces, there's a great book called Growing Weed in the Garden. And I actually, I'm going to go grab it, Beth. I just left it at my desk. It's a beautiful book.
Worries.
It's by Growing Weed, and it's called Growing Weed in the Garden. It's by James Beard award-winning author, who's also a lovely person, Joanna Silver. She does a ton to the gardening community just overall as a writer. She's fantastic. But because she's also a cannabis grower, she's sort of speaking power to growing your own cannabis at home. And her book is just filled with beautiful stories. The photography is amazing. Oh, my lovely assistant just brought me the
Uh-oh, I believe we have a little frozen video. You might need to refresh there, Emily, just as your lovely assistant brought the book. And if there is somebody in here that wants to join us that has any questions, go ahead and ask to join us, and I will be happy to let you on here and talk with Emily and I. Emily, you might have to refresh because the video is stuck and we can't hear you.
Okay, I'll pause.
Oh, there you're back. You're back.
So the book is really fantastic. I recommend it. It covers all of the basics in common language. There's no dank 420 grow light happening here. It's just practical knowledge for growing it outdoors and some really beautiful photos. So I highly recommend this book. So on our website, growitfromhome.com, we also have lots of tutorials, our videos and information. So if there's someone in your life that wants a book, I definitely recommend this book. If you're more of an online learn as you go person, check out growitfromhome.com.
Yes, I definitely recommend checking out both of those just for innovative ideas and learning how to do things. And the other thing I believe is new this year, and you just did your first one today on Instagram, is showing all the different people that grow, right? Highlighting. So what's that new thing you're doing this year?
Thank you so much. But yeah, it's really to honor everyone who's growing and share their stories. It's called We Grow. And we share stories from our gardeners about why they're growing. So a photo of them with their plants, and then a short story from them why they're growing. Because there's been just so much stigma around growing and the growing of and consumption of this plant. And I want to just honor their uses. Like I said, I'm not a green smoothie person, but a lot of folks are, and they want the fresh leaves. A lot of, many of our gardeners are growing it for someone else, someone in their family that has a need for the flower as part of their wellness necessities in their life. So I think it's a very healthful, healing plant for a lot of folks. At the end of the day, it's a plant, just like any other plant, and we should love it and embrace it. If you're a huge my dogs, and just to make people feel like, help them feel more comfortable doing it and realize they're not alone, that there's a lot of, everyone from college kids growing it on their patio to grandmothers growing it for their arthritis. Like, it's really a huge range of folks that are growing it for lots of reasons. And we want to honor all of those reasons. I think sometimes the media, focuses on like dabbing and stuff, like things like really intense activities. And I think we want to just kind of bring it back to the people and how it helps their lives. So kind of related to that. So we have the We Grow to like hide their stories, but then related to that, we also have the Plants to the People campaign. So we donate workshops, seeds, and plants to nonprofits, especially those involving like food justice and social equity around the country, to help provide it to them as a resource, and a talking point for their community to help normalize the growing and the use by their community. So we donate. It's called Plants to the People. I'd love to hear about nonprofits from folks that I should be donating to, because I'm always adding to my list of folks I can donate to. So we do that every year as well.
Excellent. No, that's awesome. And I, just even the little things in our industry really add up too. Just having those plants on my deck. I mean, when people came over, it became a conversation piece. There's people, of course, rightfully assume, well, is it cannabis? That's a great conversation. Well, because it is, but it's not, and then you get to have that conversation of, well, scientifically, yes, this is cannabis. Does not have, this isn't a THC producing plant. Well, what do you mean? And so it opens up a lot of ways to educate people when it's so normalized like that. That's the other power, I think, with this Grow It From Home program, is when it is like a tomato, when it is like a zucchini, and it is grandma, and it is me, and it is your neighbor Joe, and that are growing a plant or two or three. It really just gets the conversation going. And then it's funny stuff too. Like I used to years ago pick on a lot of my grower friends of, oh, they'd be so sad at harvest. I'm like, whatever. It's a plant, man. We have to smoke it, right? Then you start growing. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, like there's an honor to the plant when to people that have never done it. I'll sound as crazy as I thought some people sounded, but when you've really put the love into it, you smelled it, you've watched this flower grow, and you start to learn what this plant can do, what it offers.
It's why we're gardeners. It's why we grow.
It just, it gets to you. It's good stuff.
Yeah, and that's the thing, it's always been funny to me. It's a little bit like, there are folks who are really into, but like horticulture, like prize orchids and prize dahlias and stuff. I've never understood that. I'm not into like prize dogs either. I've got 2 silly poodles. Like I just love them to death.
Yeah, I got rescue dogs. Yeah.
Yeah. Rescue dogs. Exactly. Mine too. And it's like so I say we're gardeners, we like to put in that effort. We like to see things grow and change and feel the seasons as they change with our plants. And then either just enjoy the beauty of the plant, its smells, its texture, its changes throughout the season, or be able to harvest parts of the plant and share them with others. A lot of that is whether it's clipping a eucalyptus bough to put in a flower arrangement that you're giving to a friend who hasn't been feeling great, or making a tea from the herbs in your garden, which can include hemp. Hemp tea is pretty good, you guys. I will say that. And sharing that with others and preserving that, tea or that smokable flower or that oil for later in the year to enjoy and bring back that moment of harvest. So I think you just touched on like why we're gardeners, that's why we all grow together, so it's so fun.
And it's why I would like less lawns and more gardens.
Oh yeah. The lawn, it's hard though. I've had a lot of folks that are like, I'm not sure about planting this in my front yard. They're like, there's teenagers in my neighborhood. And I'm like, well, our conversation. like legally you can plant it in most places, unless you have like an HOA and things like that. But like, you can totally grow hemp in your front yard, make it a food garden in your front yard. And I'm kind of debating, some folks have asked about maybe signs. Like maybe we should have like a little hemp grows here sign or something.
Yeah.
BD, like a little ladybug in the center, kind of like those sort of no pesticide, like the pesticide free signs, the ladybug, like something like that, just to kind of say, hey, this is hemp. But yeah, I've had some folks who like want to put it in their front yard, and I'm like, you can,
Yeah, no, and it's ideas like that. Even to us, when you like you said, you did San Francisco, and with gardening. when I hear about cities, I think Georgia and Atlanta is finally doing like a food park. Like, oh, we're going to grow trees that produce food so that people can walk through the park and eat. What a concept. You know what I mean? To me, it's just like we spend all this tax money on these beautiful trees and these beautiful lawns. Well, why not grow hemp, and why not grow fruit trees, and why not have gardens, and why not invest in that, and people can eat. And people can learn about food. I mean, walking around, it's not only about helping people that maybe need a hand up to get some good food, rather than processed cheap stuff that's handed to them.
Yep.
It's also a chance for education when you're walking through a park like that with a kid, and hey, what's that? Well, that's where fruit comes from, or because we're seeing more and more kids don't even know where food comes from.
Yeah, that's why I feel like community gardens are so important.
Yes.
And especially community gardens with public access.
Yes.
Not fenced in fiefdoms, but gardens with real community access. So I totally agree, Beth. I think that's great. I think there's a lot more food production that could go on in the world. Yeah. And I think I'm all about creating also just beautiful spaces that are public for us to enjoy as a society in urban settings. And that's definitely, I think hemp definitely has a place in that as well. One day we will see.
One day. Yeah, one day.
It does grow like a weed. So I think as soon as people are really able to grow it in these public settings and it's not such a big deal, it's going to be used a lot more to form like hedges, like it just gets so big and fluffy. So I think it's going to be more common as a landscaping plant.
I was just going to say, absolutely, because I know in different states, and I've traveled to a few, where they haven't been able to eradicate it since the 1930s. It's hardy. There's some good uses for it in so many different ways. I mean, when you can't eradicate something that just keeps popping up on its own and the people that live in, and you live in, there's farmland all over this country that has, American hemp still growing because 100 years later, try as they might, she's still here.
And it does grow like a weed. It is a pun, but it does grow like a weed. So I always tell folks they're concerned they're going to like kill their plants or whatever. I'm like, don't worry about it. Like you really have to like neglect this thing for it to die. And you have 3 of them. So if you kill 2, you still have 1. I will give you plenty. So it's very hardy. I think, I kind of look forward to a day where, we have hemp that smells like strawberries and people grow it like they would grow a gardenia or another plant just for the fragrance, for the beauty of the fragrance and the flower. I mean, you can grow it right now for the beauty of the flower and the fragrance. Don't get me wrong, everyone. Like, especially like our plants have a lot of terpenes. They're very fragrant. Not that like skunky high school ditchweed thing, more like orchids and sweet cherries and, tropical notes. So, but I hope, one day would be fun. I would love to have like, kind of like Bonnie's Plants strawberry canna or something. And it's like a 3-foot tall plant that smells like strawberries August through October. I want to create that plant and get it to you guys. But, that's where I see this going, where it becomes more of that kind of, is sort of accepted for more purposes because it really is a versatile plant and it's an aroma and taste factory.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. When we get to, the one, the R&D and the breeding with genetics between the terpenes and the flavonoids and what soil and what sun and where and what, and even Oregon experiencing what did the smoke do. In some places it was fine, and in other places not good. So we're always learning something new, and it just I don't know, there's just so much yet to learn. And like you said, there's so many options of what this plant can do for us. And I just love that we're heading in that direction versus chemical, versus pharmaceutical. I see it as the new healthcare, getting back to that agricultural society. We're not that far away. We're only about 3 generations lost.
Yeah, it helps people. I think, like I said, folks are using it as part of their daily wellness.
Yeah.
They're, giving it to their pets for anxiety and lots of different uses. But I think kind of like in the same way you would grow lemon balm or Tulsi basil or, like it's a plant, and people like being able to provide their own materials for their uses. And, I definitely know folks who have grown it only to smoke. And I definitely know people who grow it only to cook and eat, like to make drinks and to cook with. So I think it supports all types of gardeners.
Yes, it does. Well, I know we need to get back to the main stage for winners and stuff, but I do want to, before we wrap it up, remind people to, one, the link is in there, or growitfromhome.com for ordering plants, for learning. Definitely check out the book that is offered. Follow Grow It From Home social media. And myself, I'm all about it. So between Emily and I, you will learn, you will see. We love to garden with hemp. And it's a great community. So reach out to either one of us. We obviously both will love to talk to you about
happy to
hemp.
And the growing season is starting now, everybody. So this is the time, just like planting your tomatoes, now is when you need to grow. So definitely, if you have questions or want to get started, definitely check out those links in the chat, because this is the time to grow your plants.
All right, get those plants ordered. Thank you, Emily.
Thanks for having me, Beth. See you soon.
All right. Okay. I do see we have a couple people in here. What is it? We got a couple of minutes. If anybody wants to jump on with any questions or ask in the chat, I think we got like till 5:55. Looks like people are heading over to the main stage. All right. I don't see any questions, so I look forward to growing my own plants. I'm excited again, Emily.
Can't wait to see the photos, Beth. Okay. See you soon.
All right. Thanks. Bye.